So I have here with me Bishop Miguel. How do you pronounce your last name? Peres. Peres.
Peres. Yes.
The American pronunciation.
Peres.
Yes. Who is living in Tel Aviv, Israel right now. He's ministering there, in the church there, he and his wife. And he is our expert on all things from Israeli biblical history, Hebrew, common Hebrew, ancient Hebrew, and he's going to share with us what he knows about this amazing new discovery that has just come on the scene, come into the news lately, about this curse tablet from Mount Ebal, and he'll explain all about this. So, Bishop Miguel, first of all, what is Mount Ebal? Why is this important that they found this little curse tablet on it? What happened in Bible times for this mountain to mean anything to anybody now?
Right. So first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here. And Israel is a surprise box because every time you buy a land, you have to, first of all, let the archaeologists come in and dig to see if they find something. And Israel is ongoing on this process of discovering up until when they found this tablet, very tiny tablet, but it brings us back to the story of the people entering the promised land. You know, you might know the story of the 10 Commandments. People fled Egypt and they went all the way through the desert to the door of Canaan, which is the promised land. And there was a stop moment. And Moses said, okay, look, wait, I had a problem here now. Moses or Joshua?
Well, to cross, yeah, it was Joshua who actually did the curses and the blessings on Gerizim.
It is Joshua.
Yeah.
Should I start answering again?
No, I can edit it out because I'm going to be putting up graphics and stuff, so it'll edit fine.
Okay. So you know the story when the Israelites, they left Egypt and they went all the way through the desert to Canaan. And when they were about to enter the promised land, there was a stop moment. And Joshua, he presented the people two huge mountains, which can be visited in Israel until today. One is Mount Ebal, and the other is Mount Gerizim. I don't know if this is how it's pronounced in American English. And these mountains are named as the mountain of blessing and the mountain of curse. And this tiny object was found by Mount Ebal saying curse, curse, curse. By the spelling name of God, there is a missing letter. And then curse, 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 curse till you die. It's very harsh words to use. But if we go to the story in the Bible of what God and Joshua was trying to do with the people, we see that there is a very important message that he wanted to deliver to all the people that were about to enter the promised land. I mean, remember, they were slaves for 430 years. Their children were born into slavery. They were growing in slavery. They didn't know how to differentiate the right hand from the left hand. So there was a lot that needed to be taught to these people, and God always used symbols, images to help them understand what is good and what's not good. Just like we do with our kids, right? We tell them, look, this is good for you and this is not good. So that's what happened. They were at the door of Canaan about to enter the promised land.
So these two mountains, Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim, is how you pronounce it in Hebrew.
Yep.
How do you say Ebal in Hebrew?
Ebal.
And Gerizim. This was something that God had even commanded before they went there. Like God had already set it up. I want you to do this. When you get into the promised land, when you cross over there, I want you to build a temple, and not a temple, an altar.
A tabernacle, yeah.
And I want you to pronounce curses from one mountain and curses from and blessings from another. So the blessing mountain was Gerizim.
Yep.
The curse mountain was Ebal. And like you said, it's very strange to us in our minds to think, why would God, that's so mean. That's so unkind. I thought God was a God of love. Why would he want to curse anybody? And then what you're saying was found in that tiny tablet, curse, curse, curse. It says it, like 9 times the word curse?
Yeah, yeah.
And you think, that's so harsh. The God of the Old Testament was so harsh, but that's not how the people of God saw it. And that's not how God saw it when he was saying this. He was like what you're saying, he was warning them, wasn't he? What was the mindset of people at that time when they would hear these curses and these blessings proclaimed? We have to put ourselves back thousands of years ago. What was their understanding, their mentality when these kinds of things were done?
Yeah, I can go even backwards a little bit more to the Garden of Eden, because God put Adam and Eve inside of a beautiful garden, and there was a tree, and he said, look, this is the tree that you should not eat, because if you eat, you're going to die. So it was something very harsh. Why would God bring death? But it's the consequence. What God was trying to say, that to everything in this life, there is a consequence. And God was trying to say to Adam in the Garden of Eden, if you disobey, meaning if you listen to someone else's voice, or if you follow something else, but not what me as a father I want from you, eventually there will be consequences. And some of these consequences I will not be able to deliver you from. So bring it to the people of Israel, who were still with a very slavery mind, if we can call it this way. And they were suffering for centuries under the punishment of Pharaoh. God was trying to insert them in the promised land without that slavery mind. God was trying to bring them inside of a new life without bringing anything from the old life into the new life. So that's why God had to make it very plain, clear. It's like as if there was, these 2 mountains were a constant visual reminder that if you live your life away from life, you will die. If you live your life without light, you will be in darkness. If you live your life without the Father, you are going to suffer. And these 2 mountains, they are very interesting, because one of them is plain dry, and the other one is beautifully green. So it was a constant visual reminder for these people who had no scholarship, who had no education, who had no qualifications, who couldn't read, who couldn't write, who had no life. Can you imagine people who were slaves for 430 years? So God had to use these symbols to help them visualize and understand, I need to continually obey God.
Yes. In fact, that picture right behind you, right behind your head, you're explaining to me is an artist's painting of Gerizim and Ebal. And those mountains still exist today, which is amazing. We can go there and see it. So this explains it beautifully, why God had to pronounce curses. And he had them. He said, when you get there, I want you to pronounce the curse. It wasn't just him telling Moses or him telling Joshua. He wanted it to be public for all of them to understand. And like you said, to get it into their head that this was something that had to be done. So let's get to a little bit to the archaeology of this amazing discovery, because part of what makes it so amazing is that it really verifies that the Bible is true. This discovery, just recent discovery of this little cursed tablet. Okay, it was, explain, help me if I'm wrong. What I know is that in the 1980s, that altar built by Joshua was actually discovered on Mount Ebal.
Exactly.
And it was amazing. What made them, what do you know that made them absolutely sure this had to have been Joshua's altar? It had to be a Jewish altar, because in that area of Israel, isn't that kind of up north where a lot of pagan nations were in that time?
Exactly. It's up north. There is a little bit of controversy between some archaeologists because of the date, but most of them, they assure that that's Joshua altar, because normally a Canaanite pagan altar would have horns on the corners, and that altar is flat, just like the altar that the Israelites used to build. And the stones, the arrangement of the stones and the size, all of it takes us back to the time of Joshua and not after it.
So this was the first thing that was discovered back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And
yes.
But they took all the dirt. There were lots of rocks covering it, lots of dirt, and they took it and they dumped it over on the side.
Right.
And they found this amazing. And even the archaeologist who found it wasn't a believer. He was of Jewish descent, but he was like an atheist Jew. He didn't really believe in the Bible. So he was shocked to find out that this is, and it dates to the time when the people of Israel would have crossed the Jordan and come in to the promised land. And yeah, it was shocking. But now, explain if I'm wrong, from what I understand is all that stuff that they took off that altar, another archaeologist decided, let's go through that. Let's look through all that dirt and see if there might be something there, right? Could you explain a little bit about that?
Exactly. It's like they uncover a place and they throw the dump on the other side, but it's not dump, that's job.
It's treasure.
It's treasure, and they find treasure in the dump. And there they found the cursed tablet in the dump of what they collected from Joshua's altar.
But this is something that you don't hear about in the Bible, really, do you? I mean, we don't have any passage that says, write a cursed tablet. And also It's so tiny. It's like just a couple inches.
Yeah, it's like we had the Levites. They were the people that had a little bit more of instruction. That's why God commanded them to speak the blessing and speak the curse. Imagine there were 12 tribes, millions of people, no internet, no speaker, no microphone. There was nothing. So God chose one tribe to be his voice, and this was the tribe of Levites. And the Levites, they were descendants of Aaron, Moses' brother. And the Levites, they were the chosen tribe to bring on the message of God to all the people. So eventually it comes to our understanding that there might have been people that wrote down and passed on to others, because how to announce something to so many people? So word by word, it would be almost impossible. It would take forever. So there were people that wanted to register what was what. This mountain is this mountain is that. Other people say that this cursed tablet was something that you should keep in order to remind you not to disobey God. And the same thing happens, an example, with the tzitzit. I don't know if you know what the tzitzit is. It's those strings that the Jews apply on their garments on the four corners. It says, God said that they should keep that on so that when they look at it, they will remember the commandments of God and not disobey them. So God was constantly working with visual things for people to see and remember. The same thing is the mezuzah that people put on their doorpost and commonly seen here in Israel in every door. God commanded the people to put the mezuzah on their door so that when they get in or when they go out, they look at the mezuzah and they remember that they should live their lives in obedience to God. So some people say that these tiny tablets, either of curse or of blessing, were something that they could wear, they could carry with them, or they could put in a place where they could constantly see and remind them, I need to walk with the light, not in darkness, because in darkness, eventually there will be curses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really great about how God does use these physical things as a reminder. And even we,
Yes.
you know, in the 21st century, we need these things too. We're not that
Exactly.
different than those people thousands of years ago. And it's interesting that if you look...
I mean, what is the wedding ring?
Right.
It's a constant reminder that, and not only for myself, but for everyone around, I'm a committed person. Actually, we don't need a wedding ring to say we are married, but this is a physical and visual reminder that I have a commitment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have no problem with that, understanding that. So it shouldn't be a problem for us to understand how God used these kinds of elements and physical things, you know, back then. I just wanted to ask too about how amazing it was that this is actually the first curse tablet written in ancient Hebrew, because if you Google curse tablet, you can find all kinds from other nations, Hittites, and even the Greeks, you know, centuries later, Roman, you know, this was something that different nations would do. And it was more like they were writing about their gods, their deities, you know, proclaiming a curse if you attack me, or whatever they would say.
Yes.
This is the first time ever that one was found. And is it true? It's actually written in ancient Hebrew, like what they call it, Proto-Hebrew of the time.
Proto-Hebrew or Paleo-Hebrew.
Yes.
Which is the Hebrew that we read today here in Israel is the modern Hebrew. But if you do take both letters, like the Aleph from modern Hebrew and Paleo-Hebrew, and you put them, or Proto-Hebrew, and put them side by side, you will see some similarities. So yes, it's Hebrew. Some of the books of the Bible were written in Paleo-Hebrew, and then it was translated to modern Hebrew.
Mm-hmm. So what exactly is said, is inscribed? Because it's, from what I understand, it's a piece of lead that things were, you know, these words were carved into this little piece of lead. I mean, little tiny piece of lead, but then it was folded over.
Yes.
Make like a, like a tablet. So for them to be able to read it, I think there's some things written on the outside, but then they had to send it to some university in Europe to be scanned, and they could see through the scans what was written. So what do they see is actually written? You said curse, curse, curse. What else? What else?
Just
did you say?
Curse, curse, curse. Stop. Then curse by Yud, Hey, Vav, and there was a missing letter, which makes us understand that this is God. Curse by God, and then curse, 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 die, and then God again at the end.
So the word for God, which was, can you explain a little bit about that? A lot of people say, well, it was probably pronounced Yahweh, but no one is sure, because the Jews, you know, the ancient Hebrews, they respected that name so much Is that it? That they refused to write the
Yes.
vowels. They would not include the vowels out of respect and reverence for the name.
Yes, even if you try to put vowels on the name, there's no sound. So you can say Yahweh, you can say Javeh, you can say Jehovah. you can try to put as many vowels, but when you take the original of what is written, it's a name that cannot be pronounced. Why? Because there are no way to connect one letter to the other. That's why people just make it as the Lord. So whenever in the Bible, whenever in the English Bible, you see written, so the Lord spoke to, and you see that the Lord is all in capital, that actually is Yud Hey Vav Hey, or the name of God.
Yud Hey Vav Hey. Those are the letters, the Hebrew letters.
That's right.
And that was the name that Moses received. You know, when Moses was in front of the burning bush, and he asked, you know, who should I say sent me? This was the name that God gave to him, which we can understand. I am, right? I am who I am.
Exactly. Yud Hey Vav Hey. Even today, if I try, I speak Hebrew. I can't pronounce it because it's I can't connect.
So it's a lost name, basically.
Yeah, which later eventually was revealed as Yeshua. I know many people may not agree.
Yeah, that's the name above all names.
Exactly. And you see an interesting thing about the name of Yud Hey Vav Hey. It's that on top of the cross, it was written Yeshua Notzri V'Melech Yudi.
Jesus, King of the Jews.
Yes, Jesus Christ and King of the Jews. As Yeshua Anotzri V'Melech Ayudi, the initials of this sentence, of this phrase, is Yud Hey Vav Hey.
Wow. That's amazing.
So they were crucifying no one but God.
The true God who'd been with them from the beginning of time. Amazing.
Exactly.
So this is the name found in this little tablet. So obviously it was Hebrew. It could not have been Hittite or, you know, Philistine or any of those other nations, those pagan nations. And to be on the cursed mountain next to Joshua's altar, I mean, it was clearly from that time.
It's the Bible. It's the Bible coming to life right before our eyes. It's the Bible coming to life.
And many scholars up until now have even argued, oh, you know, it was impossible for Moses to have written the first 5 books of the Bible. It was impossible because, you know, of course they were Hebrew slaves and they were uneducated. They wouldn't be able to read. They were a very primitive people. So they didn't know how to write. But this was found at a site, and it's dated to a date that matches their crossing over. And so it shows that, yes, there was writing. Someone was writing among the Hebrews at that time. Someone was. So could it be possible? I mean, I've even heard scholars say, no, the Bible was written, like the first 5 books of the Bible were only written down after the exile in Babylon. It's like, you know, that's it very well could have been written, if you're just looking at it purely from a scientific point of view, could have been written by Moses. This really substantiates that evidence, doesn't it?
I mean, yes, and Moses stood up on Mount Sinai 40 days. Doing what? So this gives us a hint.
Yes. He had to be writing
40 days. He might be doing something there 40 days. I mean, he wasn't sitting down for 40 days. For sure, God was giving him instructions and he was jotting down everything and bringing it down so that the tabernacle could be finished, could be built, and then instructions could be given to these people that were slaves.
So it's just so beautiful how God, over thousands of years, more and more discoveries appear to show this an overwhelming amount of evidence that the word of God is true. It's not myth. It's not just a bunch of legends. It's not just a bunch of words to help us feel good about ourselves, to feel like, oh, maybe there is some sort of spirit in heaven that cares about me. It's proven over and over again. And the two things that I think that we need to take away is, first of all, the word of God is true. There is solid evidence that the word of God can be backed up with archaeology. But on top of that is, what does this mean now for us? This idea that God cared so much to teach about curses and blessings, that now the modern Christian, I'm just talking about modern American Christians, they hate the idea of curses. They feel like, oh no, this is too much. No, let's just talk about love. Let's just talk about love. But you're bringing out this
the love of God.
Yes, but isn't God telling people about the consequences of disobedience? Isn't that a loving thing to do? I mean, if you don't warn people of danger, do you really love them?
Yeah, that's the greatest expression of love. I mean, if you sit down with your child and you prepare your child for what's about to come, you know, this is love. Now, if you just leave your child and say, oh, whatever, I don't care, you're not showing that you love your child. So let's picture this moment as God, as a father, sitting down with his son and telling son, listen to me. Dad knows what's best. Dad knows what will work and what will not, because I have more experience than you. Now, if you take this road, or if you follow your friends, or if you do this, eventually, I already know that this is not going to go well. Now, if you do what you say, even though you may not agree, but if you do what you say, my son, I love you so much. I'm doing this because I care, because I love. Choose life. Be intelligent. Be intelligent. So if we see this moment as a father sitting down with the child, we can understand what God was trying to do on Mount Gerizim and Ebal. He was saying, look, you are about to enter. Be intelligent. Choose life. Follow your head. Don't follow your heart. Obey my words. Don't obey the words of what you've heard in Egypt. Start a new life. Don't hold on to your past. In other words, he was just directing people so lovingly and saying, if you run away from me, if you stay away from light, what is there? Darkness. If you stay away from the presence of the Father who can take care, who will be there for you? It's as simple as that. There was even that Bible passage that says, so many times I wanted to take care of you just as, I don't know the word in English. Please help me, Evelyn.
A hen.
Yes, just like a hen takes care of the chick. But you did not want to be under my wings. In other words, you did not want to be under the blessing. You chose to run after curses. So curse is not this. People think that curse is an energy. It's some sort of, I don't know. No, curse is simply the absence of God. Just like cold is the absence of hot. If there is no sun, there is death. As simple as that. So let's call the sun a blessing and the absence of sun occurs. What would happen to the planet if the sun goes out? By life, finish. So this is a curse. Curse is to live your life the way you think it's best. And blessing is to live your life according to what the Father knows it's best.
Amen. That is perfect. And that's a perfect spot for us to wrap up. Thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. We really appreciate you sharing and
it was a pleasure
explaining all of this to us. Okay, God bless you. God bless your work there in Israel. God bless
Thank you.
Your lovely wife, Anna. And we might have you on as our expert for the next big archaeological discovery or anything else. All right. Thank you.
With pleasure.
All right.
Shalom, shalom. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.